if there are two companies, one company who's undergone a ransomware attack,
Yeah.
the other company who's not who hasn't faced anything like that, they both try to go get cyber insurance.
Yeah.
Right? The motivations are very different for both of
Yeah.
them. Does an incident like that affect your premium?
Yes, definitely.
Like how?
So essentially, I mean, if you have to declare what exactly went wrong,
obviously,
right?
there's full disclosure.
There's a full disclosure which is required.
Right.
So if your company has already faced a particular kind of attack, automatically
Welcome to Ofofo Studio. My guest for today is Sarthak Dubey. Sarthak is co-founder and COO at Mitigata. Mitigata is a smart cyber insurance provider. Sarthak, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Angad. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So in my intro, I mentioned that you are a smart cyber insurance provider. What makes a cyber insurance provider smart?
Now, when you talk about cyber insurance in general, right? Cyber insurance as an entity or as a standalone product cannot exist whether if you are not introducing or if you are not merging it with cybersecurity and compliance as well, right? Because insurance itself is a financial product,
Right.
But when you talk about a cyber insurance, then there are multiple layers of that coming into the picture, right?
Right.
So what makes cyber insurance smart is merging insurance, which is a financial product, which is a risk management product, with cybersecurity and compliance, and that's what we do at Mitigata.
Got it. And how did you arrive at this? Like, why did you think that this was a problem that you should be solving?
So, before Mitigata, we used to, the same team, the same founding team, myself, Mohit, Mayank, Akshat, we used to run a company called Tao.live.
Okay.
It was talents and opportunities, and we used to organize competitions for students. And we had a mobile application and everything, so academic competition, co-curricular competitions, and everything around that. So very heavy on, sort of the data that we had. That was a very critical data because it was children's information, which is one of the most critical data, data which is out there.
Yeah.
So first of all, we were very much, focused on that. We should be compliant on certain things. Very much focused on data privacy as well.
Yeah.
But still, after running it for certain times, when we launched it in the overseas market, when we launched in the US and the EU and all the other markets.
So in India, you started off in India.
We started off in India.
Which city?
No, India was we actually started off with Bangalore itself.
Okay.
And Bangalore, and because I was at that point of time in Indore and Devas, so Indore was also one of the primary regions where we started off. But over the 1 year, we had over 6 lakh students across India who were regularly participating in the competitions. We had around 23 minutes worth of average daily engagement time on our application. That we had around 25 million UGC views on our application. The platform had a sort of Instagram Reels kind of a model or interface where people could see other performances on the competitions that we used to organize.
Okay.
So it was from the metrics perspective, it was pretty nice. From the engagement metrics perspective, it was pretty nice. It was pretty difficult to monetize in India at that point of time. Of course, this is a very niche segment for students. So that's what we were doing, and that's the reason why we went out in the overseas market as well, because we saw a problem statement and we were trying to solve it at that point of time.
Yeah.
We launched in the EU and the US markets, right? And at that point of time in India also, we had partnered with multiple schools, organizations, etc. The same thing we tried to do it in the US and the EU markets as well.
Right.
And there they came with a list of requirements which are there.
Okay.
Right. For example, you need to have your HEVCAT evaluation done, which is
what evaluation is that?
HEVCAT evaluation. So multiple Ivy Leagues have come up with a cybersecurity checklist kind of things, how what is your risk assessment overall. So now there was that checklist, whether you had third party monitoring systems present or not, whether you have cyber insurance present or not. That was also one of the requirements out of the checklist that they had shared. So we started exploring cyber insurance in India. That was, this was back in 2022. We started exploring cyber insurance in India, and to our surprise, reached out to all the insurance companies, reached out to all the brokers. It took us, we didn't even get a quote for the next 2 months when we started, requested for the details.
Wow.
And we were like, it is pretty weird that it's like we have pretty good security measures in place. We do have the network security, we do have access controls, we do have certifications which are required. Everything was in place. Then why is it so difficult? First of all, there was long form that we had to fill. We did that, share it across. There was no clarity on the policy as well, whether what are all things that it is going to cover. Initially it was just a compliance requirement for us, but then I got curious that policy cover karta kya hai.
Correct.
So we started understanding, but we had no clear answer.
Okay.
And वो तो time था ही, and that was the time when we were also thinking of pivot, because we were stagnant on the monetization part over here in India, and we had to think of something कि क्या करना है इसके आगे. To spend some time figuring out कि कैसे करना है या क्या करना है, and we realized that this is a larger problem statement that we started discussing with the underwriters itself. To our surprise, even they were available to talk, because even they were not sure what exactly is the problem statements. Like problem statements तो है, but उसका solutions क्या है वो उनको नहीं पता था.
Correct.
So we started discussing with a lot of underwriters, like all the insurance companies in India, started discussing with the brokers what all the problems are. And then we realized that this is a problem. And at the luckily for us, at that point of time, the data protection bill law in India now, which at that point of time it was just a bill, just an act, the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, DPDP, that was also on the table. And we realized that as soon as this is launched, this becomes a mandate. This becomes a very important requirement. Right? If you are having any kind of data, if you are a data fiduciary, if you are someone who is handling somebody else's data fiduciary is basically if you are holding if you are a B2C company, say, and you are having your customers' data.
Correct.
Any kind of data, which can be identifiable information, health information, card information, everything. And then it became like, this is something which is going to change. This is going to bring a paradigm shift in terms of how much regulated the cybersecurity requirement, the IT security requirement for the companies are going to be.
Absolutely.
And then we thought that this is the right time, and we are in the right place right now, and we see the problem statement which can be solved at this point of time, because globally it has been solved in some way. I wouldn't say like this is an ongoing problem, because this is a risk management problem. You try to manage a certain risk in certain way, something else will come and start haunting you, but it is being solved globally as well. So we started understanding कि Indian context में problem क्या है, what exactly are the vectors that lead to losses for the businesses, right?
What are those?
So no, I'll talk more about the losses as well, but basically before we jump into the in depth of that, essentially cyber insurance or cyber security, from an IT perspective, it is a problem wherein you have a technical problem that you have to solve certain things in order to make sure that certain things doesn't go wrong. Correct. Indian companies and Indian ecosystem itself isn't really worried about that.
Right.
Indian ecosystem, not even Indian rather. I mean, किसी को भी उस चीज से फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. हर किसी को फर्क उस चीज से पड़ता है that इससे मेरा financial loss कितना हो सकता है.
Correct.
Right? How much financial loss that I could face because of a cyber attack.
Right.
Or because I don't have this particular solution in place or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? So everybody is worried about cyber attacks, or everybody is worried about the financial loss due to cyber attacks. So, we started to understand what exactly are those vectors which leads to any kind of financial losses for the business. And if we are able to identify those particular vectors, and then we will be able to identify what exactly are the right kind of policies, insurance policies as well. I'll also take a step back to talk about the cyber insurance policies, or cyber insurance, how it works is, whatever insurance basically covers your first party damages, any damage that is happening directly to your organization, any third party cost. For example, you are processing a data of somebody else, or somebody else or some other organization or some other individual faces any kind of loss because of you, then that loss also gets covered as a part of policy. The legal defense which is required to for in the entire process gets covered as a part of policy. Any kind of business interruption that happens throughout the process, for example, you had to shut down your systems for a week or so, whatever business interruption that is being caused, that gets covered as a part of cyber insurance. And then there are whatever civil fines and penalties which are there, right? Your legal costs, or whatever legal costs are there, civil fines and penalties are there, and reputational damage, whatever happens. So your PR costs, your costs, which is whatever is required to bring back your systems and your company's reputation back at stake, gets covered as a part of the policy, right? And there is an entire process around how exactly the claims work and everything. So that basically covers the cyber insurance. Now coming back to the losses, the financial losses and the vectors that leads to any kind of financial losses for the business. So we identified 4 major loss vectors. This was on the basis of multiple discussions. This was on the basis of multiple data points that we collected with respect to few of the attacks that happened in India and globally. So 4 major pointers are: one is the workforce risk, the risk that is originating from your workforce, directly or indirectly, or I would say it can be an indemnity or it can be an honest mistake. Right? It can be anything. So workforce risk is the majority of the problem. It can include the phishing risks and all of the things that comes from the workforce. Second is the third party risk. For example, you are working with multiple or say hundreds of the third party applications. You're using Google Workspace, it's a third party. You're using anything. So another risk comes from the third party. Then there is compliance risk. That is whether you are non-compliant on certain things. That leads to certain losses. There's a possibility that you will be facing fines or legal disputes on anything because you're not compliant to certain things.
Correct.
Very much relevant in the current BFSI ecosystem in India, with RBI coming very active. And to our absolute surprise, the smallest part of that 4 vectors was the system risk. So your ability to have an
I would think that would be the biggest.
Yeah, but system risk was not the major part. Right?
Oh, okay.
The financial losses that are coming is due to all these things, and system risk is a part of it. Right. But it's not the biggest.
Okay.
Right. So then we started understanding and we started building. We started building our own risk console on the basis of that. Started understanding how we can scan the organizations on these particular aspects, their workforce risk, third party risk, and all the other risks that we had, and then score them on the basis of multiple factors. Industry comparison, similar businesses, what are losses those particular kind of industry has faced. For example, the fintech companies coming, what kind of losses fintech companies have been facing in all of these areas. Then we started doing this, and then we started building this thing. Now, what this enabled us is basically provide a better underwriting mechanism or better underwriting tips to the insurance companies that this is what you should be doing, this is what you should not be doing, and that's the kind of premium that you should be charging. Secondly, we started to understand that in this ecosystem itself, right, in the entire cyber insurance ecosystem, we are able to understand what all those metrics are there which could actually sort of enhance this industry overall. For example, if say insurance के जो premiums होते हैं, they are extremely high at this point of time in India. Why they are high? Because the claim ratios are really high.
Okay.
Because a lot of companies are having a lot of higher claims as compared to the companies
sometime back.
Yeah. So a lot of claims are coming. Because of the higher claims, the insurance companies increase the premium prices. Right. Also, there is a very limited adaptation as well. Very few people have actually adopted cyber insurance policy with them. Awareness gap is there. Now, because there is an awareness gap, the only companies who are getting a cyber insurance is someone who are eventually getting the claims from. Right. So that leads to higher premiums. That leads to even lesser adoption in the market. Right. So it's a vicious cycle that needs to be broken, and for that there are 2 areas where we are working on. One is of course the awareness part, that who all should be getting it, what exactly you should be paying for it, what is the right kind of policy which makes sense for you. At the same time, helping the insurance companies underwrite policies in a better way. By doing that, we are able to reduce the premiums as well by a significant amount. At the same time, we are able to make the product also profitable for the insurance companies, because we're working on both the ways. We are trying to make insurance companies happy as well.
Yeah, transparency to both sides.
Exactly, transparency to both sides.
Right.
And that's how we are sort of trying to create the entire industry, or sort of start that entire wheel of cyber insurance in India in smoothly as how it is there in the US and the EU, UK markets as well.
Makes sense. So you said before pivoting and before starting this, you reached out to a lot of cyber insurance providers.
Yes.
And they were like brokers.
Yes.
Right. What were their apprehensions? Why did they take so much time to get back to you? Now in hindsight, a lot of things would be much more clearer to you.
Yep.
So what were the hesitation? What caused the hesitation on their front?
2 things. One was that they did not have the clarity. So there was a lot of back and forth from the reinsurance, who was actually underwriting the majority of the risk. right, who's taking the majority of the risk. So there was a lot of back and forth, and reinsurance companies were sort of apprehensive around whether to give or whether to write these policies or not. At this point of time, when you talk about, say, financial institutions, when you talk about healthcare institutions, majority of the private insurers who are there in India are not even willing to write those policies.
Oh, okay.
But that is something that we have changed over the last few months. We have written a lot of healthcare and BFSI policies via the private brokers with better terms than any other provider as well. So we are trying to create this thing where if the risk is reduced, then insurance companies don't have any problem writing the policies. They need to have that understanding of that. So the problem that they had was that they were not even willing to write.
Right.
So it was a way to sort of redirect that. अगर चले भी गई policy तो कोई problem नहीं है.
Correct. Yeah.
We don't have any problem if you have. And then understanding, there was a lot of back and forth. There was like the decision making was a little bit slower on that part because they were doing different analysis. They were doing ad hoc analysis around what happens, whether it makes sense for us to write this policy or not. And then they would just increase the premiums. If the premium is coming X, they would just quote 3X of that automatically.
Got it.
So
now that you started Mitigata, did you reach out back to them?
Like, yeah, all of them are partners. All of them are partners.
What do you what do they think about the platform now?
No, of course. I mean, so while we were building the platform itself, right, we sat with them.
Okay.
We sat with them and we discussed with them, because they, of course, we come from a completely out of insurance background. Of course, we gave the exams and everything, IIT, INIA, Pune, all of those exams we gave. Understood what exactly, is the entire insurance industry in India.
Yeah.
At the same time, of course, spent close to 6-7 months just with them, understanding the problem statements and working for the product. But we sat with them, understood that all of these things are something that we are working on. Do you think this makes sense or not? Do you think this makes sense or not?
Right.
So even they were, providing all of their inputs. They were really supportive. It's just that they were helpless before.
Yeah. Right.
That was the problem. But they were really supportive.
Blind, basically.
Yeah, they were blind, but they were really supportive. Even IRDI is, promoting this now. Even they want to make sure that this industry survives in India and this industry flourishes in India. So we have been getting pretty good support from the insurance companies as well, from the reinsurance companies as well as the regulator, which is IRDI in India.
Got it. So let's come to your team now. So you're 3 co-founders. And
4 co-founders.
4 co-founders. And this is the second company.
This is the second company.
With all 4.
Yeah.
How did you decide to start the first one? And then, as a follow-up to that, how did you collectively think that it was a good idea to pivot into this?
Yeah.
Let's start with the first one.
The first one. So basically, we, I'll go even back. So do you want me to start from the basic actually?
Start from the basic. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Because that would give
How
much
did you guys
more
meet?
clarity. Yeah, that would give much more clarity. So basically, I used to work with a company called NovoPay. Mohit and I, both used to work on the same product.
Okay.
In NovoPay, and NovoPay was a retail banking solution, but we were working on a SaaS product over there.
Okay.
Which was for the field force automation over there.
Got it.
And there were just 3 people in the team, myself, Mohit, and another person over there.
Right.
So Mohit and I worked for 1.5 years, we worked on the same product, building around the product, pre-sales and everything around that. Everything was like, very small team working everything. So we used to work together for a really long time, and we both wanted to do something. We both wanted to start a company itself.
Yeah.
And this has been with me over the last 8-10 years itself, right? Even back when I was in college, I wanted to start a company. We'll probably get into that later, that how exactly what was my thought process at that point of time. But we wanted to start a company. We were understanding what all things, what it takes, and what would be the right kind of idea. We spent a lot of time discussing multiple ideas.
Okay.
Mayank, the CTO of our company and our third co-founder, is Mohit's batchmate from IIT BHU.
Got it.
So Mayank was also involved in those discussions with Mohit and I, and Akshat used to also work with NovoPay.
Okay.
And Akshat was also involved in after we started Tao. So he came in, he came on board after we started Tao. So we used to have these discussions before that. We need to start something, we need to do something of our own. This is something which is interesting.
Right.
So multiple ideas. After discussing multiple ideas with Mohit, Mayank, we came across, I was building something in the edtech space, an omni-channel edtech space post-COVID. Actually, this was pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, I was thinking of something around, an omni-channel edtech space wherein we can do something around that. At the same time, Mohit was also, working on something on the lines of gaming, gamification, and multiple ideas around gamification itself. So then understanding the problem with the edtech ecosystem in India, we thought that everybody is trying to teach people something.
Yeah.
Right. But what exactly actually makes any person understand whether they have learned something or not is by implementing or practicing that particular aspect.
Okay,
And
applying
whatever we
it,
do,
yeah.
whatever we study as well, right? There is an end goal to it.
Right.
Nobody studies for without any end goal.
Yeah.
So we thought
Application
that
of
at
that
the end
knowledge,
of it, everything comes down to how exactly you're applying, and everything eventually comes down to the competitions.
Right.
Whether you're studying for an exam, which is a sort of competition. So we thought that this is an interesting space, and this is something which is missing in the ecosystem. Everybody is focusing on studying, or everybody's focusing on making people learn certain things in certain ways, right? By teaching them instead of helping them apply those particular aspects.
Right.
So we started Tau, which was and we gamified the entire ecosystem. We used to organize competitions, weekly competitions, monthly competitions, etc. on our platform itself. You could record your videos, say if it's a dance competition and everything, and it was a hit. It was a hit overall globally. Not globally. I mean, like in India, it was a pretty good hit. Within 1 year of a launch, we had like I mentioned, close to 6 lakh students across India. Probably close to 25-30 lakhs participations in multiple competitions. It was a pretty good engagement that we received. But of course, because it was a subscription based platform, not a lot of people were paying for it.
Right.
Not a lot of people thought that this would be something that we would spend money on. Correct. Because our audience was also a pretty niche audience.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of sort of 50-60% of our audience was based out of tier 2, tier 3 cities. So that was the problem that we faced.
Yeah.
But yeah, we came together, launched this, did everything to keep it alive. Even we started vlog series for own, because our audience was the young generation, 14 to 18 years kind of people. Right. Even that was pretty good, like 10,000 views per video we were getting.
Wow.
We launched 5-6 videos. Did a lot of things around that. And then eventually when, of course, we were thinking around kya karna hai, because it was not exactly working for us,
right?
From the monetization perspective.
This is 22.
This was later part of 22.
Later part of 22.
Later part of 22 was something where we had to figure out कि आगे क्या करना है.
Right.
And that was the time we started discussing, exploring ideas. We explored multiple ideas apart from this as well. Explored ideas in the B2C domain, explored idea in the B2B real estate domain as well. Multiple things that we thought for.
Yeah.
And eventually, like I mentioned, right, we collectively came on to this decision that this is something which is going to work, because of course all the sort of the circumstantial factors were in the favor of this idea, because like I mentioned, DPDP was coming in, timing was perfect, and we understood that there is a gap in the system.
So what was it like moving from like a B2C space to B2B, but also like not just B2B, enterprises, like which is like the completely other end of the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
So what was that shift like?
That shift was insane. I mean, like I was talking about before we started, that Akshit used to record vlogs, he used to say, hey guys, kaise ho aap, and all of those things. And then straight from that, moving to a space where, there's a, like he's wearing a suit and having a conversation with the CFO, explaining their risk to them. It was a big shift. Of course, it was the largest shift, but it was pretty natural for us, because it was not a sudden shift for us. Right? We were talking to a lot of people, trying to understand their problems.
You were learning on the way. So
we were learning on the way, and then it wasn't that we suddenly did something. We spent close to 7-8 months just to understand from both supply and demand perspective that problems kahan par hai, kaise problem solve karni hai. So then it became natural for us, and then it was easier for us to sort of work on that.
Okay. So how are responsibilities and also probably competencies divided between yourself, Mayank, Mohit, and Akshit?
So Mayank is a tech guy, so he does everything from tech. Now the R&D and the cybersecurity part of it as well. Some bit of compliance parts and everything around. The internal tech is something that is headed by Mayank altogether.
Yeah.
Akshit looks completely into sales. He
Okay.
heads the entire sales for the organization.
Mhm.
I look into both the operations part, like internal operations, external operations, as well as the external and internal compliance in terms of insurance as well. So whatever IRDA regulations and everything is there, all of those things is taken care by me. Mohit heads the product all together, product and all the other parts as well. So risk quantification, everything else, and all of those parts. Apart from that, whatever the other things which are left. So that is something that Mohit picks and handles everything around that.
Yeah, so all of you have like a very strong entrepreneurial streak within yourself, right?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't. So the entire idea was that over the last, like even when we were working, all of us wanted to start something.
Right.
That was something which was there itself.
Yeah.
So it probably we would have thought over 100 ideas, would have done POC of close to 20-25 ideas.
Okay.
Built products as well, bought domains and everything. My
Okay.
GoDaddy is still मुझे अभी भी मतलब अब वो आते रहते हैं कि आपका ये डोमेन एक्सपायर हो रहा है, क्योंकि 3-3 साल के लिए वो डोमेन्स खरीद लेता था.
Oh,
That, this is what we want to do.
Yeah.
So
So in retrospect, which idea you're like, glad that you did not pursue?
So I mean, there is none of those actually.
Okay, none of those. Wow.
Yeah, we always thought of something that, of course, there were certain reasons why we didn't go for it.
Yeah.
But it's not like anything which was bad per se.
Yeah.
कुछ ना कुछ अलग problem रहा उसके केस में. But there are companies which are doing pretty well, of similar ideas at this point of time as well.
Yeah.
Maybe at that point of time they were not there or they were very small.
Yeah.
But they are doing pretty well. So all the ideas, I would say, I wouldn't sort of say that some idea is something that we would not want to pursue आगे जाके.
Okay.
But focus तो कहीं एक ही जगह बिठाना है ना.
Correct.
So,
Yeah. Okay. Let's back up a little bit and focus on you.
yeah.
How you mentioned that you always knew that you wanted to start an entrepreneurial venture of your own.
Yeah.
When is the earliest memory of that happening?
So, to start with respect to money, my relationship with money started when I was in 8th standard.
Okay.
Right, 7th, 8th standard mein I started, I realized that we could make money by doing certain things.
Right.
And I started with check जो होता था ना पहले उस टाइम पे, check, early days of check था उस टाइम पे, check.com, where you can answer homework solution for.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I came across that, myself and a few friends of mine, we came across that. And then we understood that this is a pretty good thing. And then we also figured out कि यार बाकी लोग पैसा भी दे रहे हैं यहाँ पे, चेक भी यहाँ पे पैसा कमा रहे हैं. तो we started understanding. That was the time, like school time पे I started understanding कि
Arbitrage क्या होता है?
हाँ ये arbitrage क्या होता है. तो that was my first relationship, understanding कि हाँ पैसा भी आता है, पैसा आया, अच्छा लगा. Made around 8-10,000 rupees at that point of time.
Wow.
Pretty good. वो Flipkart नहीं, उस टाइम Amazon ही था खाली. Flipkart भी आ गया था इंडिया में, early days of Flipkart था उस टाइम पे. This was 2008-2009 का time.
Okay.
Got the vouchers and that was a pretty good experience. So thought कि यार this is something good. At that time Flipkart was also there. So I was following, like Flipkart की story हो गई, Snapdeal की story हो गई. Luckily, I mean, Snapdeal, Kunal and Rohit are our investors now.
Oh, wow.
But, I was following these stories ki kaise chal raha hai. So I was always interested in that entire domain.
Yeah.
Right. And, but of course, I come from a very small, like a tier 3, tier 4 city called Devas in Madhya Pradesh. So, us time kuch exposure tha nahi.
Right.
Whatever. I didn't know exactly what all things are to be taken. So, ये भी मेरे दिमाग में एकदम clear था that I have to get out of here. I didn't want to study in Devas, Indore, Madhya Pradesh region. I wanted to get out of here to do something and understand and get more exposure around this.
Right.
So, luckily for me, I got into Manipal. Got a 100% scholarship to go to Manipal. Wow. Because otherwise I couldn't have afforded Manipal. But, I went to Manipal and that was the time where I, वो मतलब eye-opening moment था, क्योंकि बहुत जो exposure मिला, that was completely different over there. The opportunities were insane. If you had something, if a talent, or if you had a knack for something, there was something over there.
Yeah.
Right? And understanding, exploring, networking, working with people, talking to people, exploring ideas and everything, it was out there.
Yeah.
So जाते से मणिपाल में started doing multiple things. I thought that photography was something which came natural to me. मतलब मुझे अच्छा लगता था मुझे photos वगैरह खींचना. And luckily I had a camera. So started going and clicking pictures. Was a part of photography club over there. And there also met a lot of people because I used to do photography.
Right.
Used to click photos and like you to do paid shoots for उधर रेस्टोरेंट्स वगैरह के लिए ऑर्गेनाइजेशन छोटा मोटा कुछ भी कर रहे हैं, क्लब्स कर रहे हैं, उनके लिए पेड शूट करते थे. सेम टाइम मैं रियलाइज कि यार पैसा तो यहाँ भी बनाना ही है, वी हैव टू गेट स्टार्टेड इधर भी. तो देखा कि इलस्ट्रेटर वगैरह सीखना इट्स एन ईजी थिंग एंड थॉट दैट टी शर्ट डिजाइन करेंगे, टी शर्ट बेचेंगे, क्योंकि मणिपाल के बहुत पास में तिरुपुर है. तिरुपुर इज इन केरला एंड तिरुपुर इज लाइक कॉल्ड द टेक्सटाइल हब ऑफ साउथ इंडिया, लाइक जस्ट साउथ लुधियाना इज इन नॉर्थ इंडिया, तिरुपुर इज द टेक्सटाइल हब ऑफ साउथ इंडिया. तो वहाँ से हम लोगों को मिलते थे बहुत सस्ते टी शर्ट्स. वी यूज्ड टू गेट टी शर्ट्स, हम लोग डिजाइन यहाँ पे बेचते थे, टी शर्ट वहाँ से लेते थे, टी शर्ट बेचना स्टार्ट कर दिए. Sold quite a lot of t-shirts over the first 2 years of Manipal. First year, second year में बहुत t-shirts बेचे. तो figure out कि हाँ ठीक है पैसा यहाँ से आ रहा है, लेकिन had a little venture of my own doing all of these things. Right? Then there was a company over there itself started by a couple of seniors who incubated था वहीं पर ही, web agency, marketing agency and everything, and they were building their own product as well, which was a hyper local events based product. At that point, it didn't sort of.
What were they called?
Webloom Solution.
Webloom
Solution was the name of the company. Shashank is actually still running Webloom right now.
Okay.
So I started working with them. Had a pretty good experience. वही यही सारी चीजें होती थी.
Right.
तो बाकी टाइम कुछ टाइम फोटोग्राफी करता था, कुछ टाइम इन लोगों के साथ में कुछ करता रहता था.
So
the entire college also spent. और अब ये भी समझ में आ गया था यार कि स्टार्टअप करना है तो I need to understand and learn certain things as well कि ऑपरेट कैसे करता है. अब यहाँ पे तो कर लिया, टी शर्ट बेच दिया, टी शर्ट बेच के तो कुछ होना नहीं है, राइट. सो इफ आई हैड टू डू समथिंग आई हैव टू लर्न कि कैसे काम करेगा. सो आई वांटेड, सो तब मैंने 2 पाथ डिफाइन किए थे. That either I'll go towards the product path and understand what exactly the product works, or I'll go towards the finance path.
Correct.
तो अगर मुझे कोई सी IB intern मिल जाती है, और I get a intern in a consulting company या फिर companies like Goldman Sachs and etc. Then I'll go towards that path, then get into the investment वाला path, finance वाला path, and then start a company. Or I'll go towards the product वाला path, understand that how product and operations work, and then start a company around that. तो ये मैंने 2 पाथ ऐसे डिफाइन करके रखे थे कि like either I'll go here and there.
न्यूयॉर्क और बे एरिया.
Right. तो couldn't get into the consulting part. IB वगैरह में तो हो नहीं पाया कहीं भी. But मैंने जैसे बताया था कि अब डिजाइनिंग कर रहा था, तो and again have a computer science background but no experience in coding. Right. Did not study as well in college.
Okay.
So designing पता था कि कैसे करना है, तो I thought कि चलो ठीक है UX designer, this is the way to product now.
Right.
Because सीधे ग्रेजुएट को तो प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर भी नहीं बनाएगा ना कोई भी. तो got into the UX design part, and luckily for me a very early stage company called Doers, they hired me and joined there as a UX designer, but immediately after joining the company started learning कि company कैसे काम कर रही है, and I started working on their operations bit as well.
Okay.
They were into reverse e-commerce, so they used to sell the returned inventory in wholesale to the buyers.
Got it.
And they had a bidding model.
Okay.
तो lots कैसे create हो रहे हैं, how exactly those lots are created, how exactly the bidding model is functioning. I started working in building lots for them.
Interesting.
At that time. तो UX design, क्योंकि B2B company वहाँ पे मैं कितना ही UX design कर लूँगा.
Correct.
Right. So I did that too, and I did that too. Got into product, got into operations, and did everything in that company. Right. And that was the perfect experience that you could have at the first job.
Right.
Because did everything, understood everything कि ये चीज़ है, and that was exactly what I was trying to do. कि understand how product works, understand how operations work. Then I got a chance to work with Lenskart.
Okay.
And Lenskart also I worked on the product over there. That was the POS product that they had, the point of sales product. I worked on that, and then I joined NovoPay after that, and that's where I met Mohit and Akshat and Mayank at that time.
Okay.
And had a decent stint over there, had a very short stint in delivery before that as well. So I worked in the organization of different sizes, very early stage and IPO level as well.
Yeah.
तब delivery का IPO नहीं हुआ था though, but then the entire stage, different.
Significantly larger company.
Yeah, significantly larger company. So understood कि क्या क्या चीजें समझ में आनी है, इसको कैसे कैसे operate करना है. So that helped me build that understanding around कि कैसे काम करेगी company at a given point of time. What exactly I'm not supposed to do. What I'm supposed to do is different thing altogether. वो तो चलो ठीक है सीखते सीखते आएगा, बट क्या क्या नहीं करना है वो समझ में आने लग गया था.
Correct.
What all are the mistakes that I don't have to make, and वो the observations kept on building from different companies that I worked with. So and the back of my head, it was very clear that I have to start a company.
Right.
And यही same चीज, similar kind of sort of mind space मोहित का भी था, मयंक का भी था, अक्षित का भी था. So we clicked automatically.
Right.
We started discussing, and that's how we started this.
Okay. So, these are all successes that we're discussing right now. There must have been some failures too.
Yeah.
Now they might not seem like that. Now
course,
they
of
might
course,
just
of
seem
course.
like, divergence. But
Yeah.
are there any specific incidents that you can recount?
I mean, the most recent, of course, being my last organization, which we couldn't work on.
Right.
So Tao ke case mein, we were really optimistic around how the things are going to look like. We had a pretty good, we even raised funds for that as well.
Okay.
Very small pre-seed round with that we did. Very supportive investors, Point One Capital and others as well. We raised the round, but at a given point of time, मतलब एक time ऐसा आया था क्योंकि ये 22 का time है जब this was the peak funding winter as well.
Right.
कंपनी के पास पैसा खत्म हो रहा था. We didn't know what exactly we have to do next.
How big was your team then?
There were close to 20 people with us, working at that time. मतलब अब वो B2C था तो a lot of customer support, operations और ये सारी चीज़ों के लिए बहुत सारे लोग थे.
Right.
तो had to figure out कि आगे क्या करना है, right? And that there were certain times when we were, मतलब I could see that बैंक अकाउंट में पैसा जा रहा है, रेज करने में of course there is a problem because monetization उस तरीके से हिट नहीं कर पा रहा है, which is an obvious problem, right? अगर आप revenue नहीं बना पा रहे हो तो you should not be able to raise as well. So we were facing those particular kind of problems. समझ नहीं आ रहा था. There was a significant amount of time जो हम लोग रिसर्च कर भी रहे थे बाकी चीज़ों के लिए. एक चीज़ तो बैक ऑफ द हेड थे ही सही कि अब ये नहीं हुआ तो क्या करेंगे. We were on a thin ice. हम लोगों के पास में कुछ 2-3 महीने का पैसा बचा था. वो 2-3 महीने के पैसे को हम लोगों ने 6 महीने का बना दिया क्योंकि we stopped taking salaries and everything.
Right.
So even though कुछ लेते नहीं था उसके पहले भी, but then that was the case. तो we that was a significant period जो we had to go through. Right, to understand कि अब आगे क्या करना है. मतलब we were on a very thin ice that point of time. That was a significant time जो जब लगा था कि यार अब मतलब that was, wouldn't call a direct failure, but you could relate it to a failure as well. But quite a lot of learnings around that as well.
Absolutely.
कि कैसे करना है, क्या नहीं करना है, what all things that, and that's the reason why तो day one पे हमने सोच के रखा था कि नया idea जिस पे भी काम करेंगे, we need to make sure that idea profitability focused and the money should be flowing in, there should be a very clear monetary output. Cash flow होना बहुत जरूरी है from day one.
Correct.
B2C में of course it doesn't work like that, even though we thought of having that initially, but हम लोगों ने सबसे पहले funds raise किए थे. That was in 21, right? 21 में everything was hunky dory for everyone, right? So investors बोल रहे थे कि आप revenue पे क्यों focus कर रहे हो? You should focus just on growth, right? Don't focus on revenue at all. हमने बोला सही है, एकदम बढ़िया सर, हम लोग revenue growth पे focus करेंगे, right? Even though मतलब ऐसा नहीं था कि अनाप शनाप पैसा खर्च कर दिया, advertisements, etc.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
But we focused a lot on growth at that point of time. That was a mistake. Then we realized कि अब कोई बोल भी देता है तो भी we'll be focusing a lot on revenue, focusing a lot on making cash flow positive, and that is something that we are working on.
Yeah. So we're talking about raising funds, and I see that on your platform you've got some really big names as your investors.
Yeah.
How do you manage? How do you convince somebody to share your vision and put their skin in the game for you?
Right.
How do you go about doing that?
So it's all about the narrative, right? It's all about the story.
Right.
That what exactly is your story? That somebody is, if somebody is putting in money or somebody is putting in, that vision needs to be shared and it needs to be sort of articulated in the better way.
Correct. Yeah.
It's
how
not
do you
just
go about
about
doing that? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's of course it's a step-by-step process. You have to yourself be 100% or 200% sure in your vision. If you yourself is having, or any person who's planning to raise money has any doubt that this is not going to work, then it will be very difficult for you to articulate the same thing to the prospective or potential investor as well.
True.
So the idea is, of course, making sure what exactly you want from the next person. If the next person is just looking for clarity, if you are able to present yourself, your idea, your vision in the most clear way possible, that will change the entire vision, or that will help you convince the other person as well. Correct. So clarity of thoughts, very much important. Confidence in your idea, confidence in your what exactly you are pitching, very much important. And then, precise and being on the point, right? Beating around the bush doesn't work.
No.
It would have worked before, but now it will definitely not work.
Of course,
There has to be very clear thing कि यार ये होगा तो हम इतना पैसा बनाएंगे. This is what exactly we are planning to. Not just पैसे की बात भी नहीं है, but how exactly the overall business is going to pan out. You need to make sure that you have that sort of vision clear.
Right.
कि 3 years down the line, this is what it's going to look like. 5 years down the line, this is what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
And if you have that clarity, then you will be able to, sort of explain the same thing.
Right. But how do you even get into those conversations? How do you get your foot in the door? Like when, it's another thing to be able to do all of that.
Yeah.
But how do you even create the opportunity for that to happen?
So there are two ways to do that. I mean, one is if you are very early in the market, very early in your product side, then you can't depend on the quality of your product.
Absolutely.
Because that is one way how that's the second part which I'll talk about. But if you're very early in the market, then the network helps. Right? You need to make sure that you're building that sort of network. You need to make sure that you're talking to those kind of people much more. Again, you don't get a lot of time.
Yeah.
Right? You have to articulate that in as quickly as possible. So have your minute long pitch ready whenever you are meeting random people in events and do a lot of networking as well.
Right.
That becomes one of the most important parts for extremely early stage founders. If you have a product that is ready, and of course this is not something which is going to get you the checks already,
right,
or the term sheets already. You need to make sure that the product that you're working on or the idea that you're working on, you have a very clear understanding, and if it is out there in public, then you have to focus on the excellence over there. You need to make sure that you are building that product market fit. You have to make sure that you're building that market fit itself, not just your product fit, but market
category,
fit. The category अगर उसके अंदर काम कर रहा है,
right,
and then where your product stands over there.
Right.
Customer excellence, customers हैं. अगर if it's a B2C product, then how exactly people are pursuing that product, how exactly you are doing that. Even if it's a B2B product, then having right kind of case studies and everything, that automatically creates that word of mouth, that automatically creates those network effects. So both the things combined helps create a profile of your organization out there in the public. That is very much important in order to do that. मतलब आप अगर किसी को reach out directly कर भी लोगे, तो there is a possibility कि आप उनके साथ meeting कर लो, but then you need to make sure that a lot of things are in your favor at that point of time.
Right.
But putting your name out there in the public always depends a lot on what's the quality of your offering, what's the quality of your product. Right. So that becomes very much important.
So even among our investors, did you feel that there was a lack of awareness when it came to cyber insurance, or did you feel that okay, maybe they had that in their side, but they couldn't really find a company that was good enough to go about solving that problem?
It's a new product, it's a new offering altogether, right?
Right.
It's a very new product itself. मतलब by idea है नहीं, मतलब हमारे यहाँ cyber insurance in India has been around over the last 12 years, but before 2017 कुछ था भी नहीं. There was just compliance requirement जो a couple of enterprise used to get it from some international reinsurance companies. So as a market itself, it's a very new and a very niche market. So not a lot of people are aware of that. Not a lot of people know about it as well.
Yeah.
But people who have been looking into the PNC lines of insurance are aware how big the market is. So it became eventually understood कि हाँ ठीक है, cyber security का market जितना बड़ा है, insurance का market also you can sort of bring around there कि यहाँ ठीक है, यहाँ this is the market for different security products. This is where the insurance is gonna come into the picture, and overall PNC insurance जो property and casualty lines of insurance है, and the liability insurance की जो overall categories है, cyber is coming, and it is like over the last 3-4 years it has been the fastest growing insurance segment in India as well. So that has been the case. So पता तो है लोगों को इसके बारे में. It's just that clarity तो उनको भी नहीं ना, because clarity insurance companies को ही अगर अभी तक नहीं दी तो फिर बाकी लोगों के साथ में तो we can't even expect that.
True. So is there anything else that you're working on? Is there anything else on the future roadmap for Mitigata?
So apart from B2B product, we are launching our B2C product as well, which is a consumer focused insurance product.
I read a little about that.
Yeah,
it's very interesting. Like it said that you're starting the plans are starting at less than $2 per year. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So when does an individual need cyber insurance? What are those cases?
So I have been saying this thing around as well. Like there are 3 most important policies that an individual should be getting as soon as he or she turns 18. One is term insurance, one is health insurance, and the third is cyber insurance.
Yeah.
Right. Cyber insurance again, from an individual perspective as well, it is a very niche product.
Right.
Not a lot of people are aware of that. But essentially, if you face any sort of losses, financial losses, digital theft of funds,
Yeah.
again, cyber bullying, cyber extortion, it basically covers all of those costs, right? So it is very much important. If you have any money in your bank account, even if you don't have money in your bank account, right? There is a possibility that you might end up paying certain things to certain people.
Absolutely.
Extortion ho sakta hai, identity theft ho sakta hai. People could use your pictures, and with the deep fakes, with the AI and all of these things coming in, there are a very high chance.
Absolutely.
Not just for people who are not aware, but also for the people who are very tech savvy and
Correct. Yeah. That's no indicator of you falling prey to
Exactly,
any of those.
exactly.
Yeah.
Attackers are always super smart.
Yeah.
They are one step ahead of you.
Yeah. Right.
So if somebody is going to crack down certain things, there is going to be a new kind of scam which would go around in the market, right? So it becomes very important for the individuals to understand that there is a risk on your finances directly because of a cyber attack.
Okay.
And everybody in India, nobody cares about the personal data, privacy and everything, right?
Yeah.
अभी तक किसी को फर्क पड़ता नहीं है.
Yeah.
But the data which is out there, which has already been leaked out there,
Right.
somebody is going to use that data and create a narrative out of that data to eventually scam you or your family.
Absolutely.
Because of that.
Yeah.
Right? So this keeps on happening. And nobody is safe in India. No, the data, everything is out there. So I believe everybody should be having a cyber insurance in place, so that if something goes wrong, you have a way to transfer that particular risk.
Absolutely.
So you would be facing all the losses yourself.
Right. Are there any anecdotes that you can share from your customers, like how some before and after stories?
From B2C or B2B perspective?
Both. Let's go with both. Yeah.
Yeah. So from a company's perspective, the biggest difference that we had was with respect to how better the policies, unlike making companies eligible for certain policies as well. There was a company. It's a fintech company. It's a lending company. They were looking for a cyber insurance for the last 2 to 3 months. And they were not able to get a policy there because they were a fintech company. They were not eligible. The risk was really high. The insurance companies were not willing to underwrite the policies. Then they came to us, and with HDFC Ergo as an insurer, we wrote their policy in the next 4 days.
Wow.
Because we were able to do the risk assessment, because we were able to build an entire case study for the insurance company as well, that this is basically the risk associated. We are also going to be minimizing your risk by certain areas that we are suggesting to the business to operate on. And on the basis of that, we were able to write the policies in the next 4 days.
What are some recommendations that you make from from a cybersecurity perspective before you're offering something like this?
Yeah. So again, 3 parts where we can divide that. One is the compliance things, whether the company is compliant on certain aspects or not, right? Where if it's a fintech company, it's a financial institution, they should be having a PCI DSS certification.
Absolutely.
Right. So compliance is one area. Then their network security access controls, whether they have the right kind of, a lot of things gets automatically covered if you are getting that sort of compliant to certain aspects. If you're getting compliant to ISO 27001, there's a very high chance that you will be implementing the right kind of controls,
those controls
and
will be covered,
your business continuity, disaster recovery, etc.
Correct.
So those are the different other aspects, whether you should have an EDR in place, where you should have an XDR in place, or you should have the right kind of access control, you should have the right kind of policies, disaster recovery policies, business continuity management policies, etc. And this is required just as an organizational compliance requirement. I mean, creating a business interruption business continuity plan, or creating a disaster recovery plan, people think of that as, this is a very large process. We have to do an entire exercise and a lot of things. Of course, you have to do that. But this is an operational process that you have to follow. Like if you spare, a week out of your time to as a compliance or as a compliance manager or for early stage companies, as founders as well, it becomes easier for you to understand if something goes wrong, what exactly would be the drill that you would be following, right?
Correct. Yeah.
If the company is aware of that, automatically the chances of that company losing a lot of money reduces by a significant amount.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. If the company lose less money, there is a very high chance that उनका claim आता भी है तो भी वो claim काफी कम रहेगा.
Right.
Insurance companies will be more willing to write your policy.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So your risk gets transferred, but your risk gets mitigated as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's where Mitigata comes in and help the companies build the right kind of solutions, right kind of and then of course depending on what all help they are requiring from as well, from a cybersecurity perspective.
Right.
They're looking for a securities product. We help them get the right kind of products. We have partnered with everybody in the market basically.
Right.
If they need certain services, we have partnered with multiple things, and then we do have internal teams to do that as well.
Yeah, but there must be because this is such a new category, and also it is vastly different for any use case that I can think of, right? How do you go about doing that research? I would assume you'd need a think tank built internally.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
So again, whatever data that we collected, we have been continuously working on getting more and more data for different industries. What all things, and making different use cases, making different case studies. Again, making different narratives for different scenarios. So different industries, of course, breaking it down from the category itself. That if you fall under a fintech category, and if you fall under a certain number of employees, if you fall under a certain revenue, these are the risks associated with you. Right. Similarly, if you fall under a different category, so breaking down those problem statements into multiple categories, multiple industries, multiple area of operations where they are working out of. For example, a company based out of India is comparatively at a lesser risk as compared to a company based out of the US.
Absolutely.
At this point of time.
Yeah.
So based out of where they are based out, based on where they are operating out of, what is their revenue, what is their exposure overall, different scenarios can be prepared, and that's how we work on collecting different data and then working on different scenarios, working on different problem statements, working on use cases, and then of course prioritizing them on the basis of where it makes more sense for an organization to get how much insurance as well.
Absolutely. And who do you think are your competitors in this space?
So from a smart cyber insurance perspective, or insurance merging with security and compliance, at this point of time there is no one in India.
Right.
There are multiple companies based out of overseas who are doing work in a similar domain. Not exactly the same, but in a similar domain. But in India there are no competitors. The only people who can also sell cyber insurance are the other brokers as well.
Right.
But they are traditional brokers working in a similar manner. Selling you a cyber insurance in a similar way how they would sell you a fire policy, or in a similar way how they would sell you a marine policy as well.
They're not smart.
No, I'm not saying that they're not smart.
No. I mean, but smart cyber insurance.
It's a different ball game altogether. Absolutely. The risk is completely different. There are, if you think about it, from a policy perspective, you take motor insurance for example, or you take health insurance for example. There are multiple external factors who are helping the insurance companies mitigate the risk. Right? आप अगर motor insurance की बात करो तो you are supposed to drive in the right lane. You are supposed to wear the helmet.
Absolutely.
When you talk about the fire policies, you are supposed to have a fire extinguisher in place. You are supposed to have those policies in place. Correct. Nobody wants to get into that particular scenario. Then there is no one who is coming out there, coming to burn your house as well, right? Or coming to burn your company as well. Right. But in cyber insurance, it's completely the opposite. There are a lot of external factors which are working against your organization, working against the insurance company as well. Right? You don't know where the risk is.
Right.
There are multiple external threat actors who are out there who are trying to attack your organization. There are multiple ways how your organization can be impacted financially because of a cyber attack, and nobody really has a solution to that.
True.
Right? So there are multiple external factors which are working against the business, which are working against the insurance company. So until and unless you're working on that with a different approach, it becomes very difficult for you to sell a policy. It becomes very difficult for you to underwrite a policy as well. Yeah. That's why it becomes very important to have an individual or a set process itself, or a set different process for cyber insurance, and not just for getting an insurance, but also for for the claims as well.
Right.
When you talk about insurance, everybody is just focused on कि claim मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा, कैसे claim मिलेगा, कैसे नहीं मिलेगा. अब आज की तारीख में if you go out there, get a policy normally with an insurance company, the claim process is even harder than getting a cyber insurance.
Always is, yeah.
Right. So there is no standard operating procedure which is set. It becomes difficult for a company to file for a claim. They have to do their own audit. They have to do their own forensics and everything.
Right.
Becomes very difficult in terms of of course there are players who can help you with all of those things separately. But then again, orchestrating the entire thing is a mess at this point of time. And then going to the insurance company who would do another survey and audit on your organization.
Right.
What we do is we bridge that particular gap because we are working for the benefit of the insurance company as well, for the benefit of the company as well.
Yes.
We would want the company to get claim as soon as possible. At the same time, we want to make sure that the losses are minimized.
Right.
If the losses are minimized, it is beneficial for the company. It is beneficial for the insurance company as well.
Okay.
So we work with all the players out there in the market, whoever is providing any kind of support with the incident response, we have an entire standard operating procedure set that how exactly the incident response is going to look like, how exactly the disaster recovery is going to look like for that organization, and what exactly are the insured interests and what are the insured costs that you would be getting out there.
Got it. Okay, so let me ask you this. If there are two companies, one company who's undergone a ransomware attack, the other company who's not, who hasn't faced anything like that, they both try to go get cyber insurance, right? The motivations are very different for both of them. Does an incident like that affect your premium?
Yes, definitely.
Like how?
So essentially, I mean, if you have to declare what exactly went wrong,
there's full disclosure.
There's a full disclosure which is required.
Right.
So if your company has already faced a particular kind of attack, automatically it moves you on a higher risk category as compared to an organization which has not faced an attack yet.
Yeah.
Now, of course, it becomes difficult for you to get a policy as well, and you end up paying a little bit higher premiums as well.
Okay.
But at that scenario as well, of course, we create an entire file for the risk assessment profile for that organization. We also understand that post that what all changes in their IT systems, in their security policies, in their security measures, security controls that they have taken. On the basis of that, we also create a profile for them that even though they have faced an attack, after that they are now this much secure.
Right.
So we help them reduce their premiums in those particular areas as well, but they would naturally end up paying a higher premium. If you have faced a heart attack before, your health insurance premium is definitely going to be higher.
Absolutely.
So similar thing is going to be there for cyber as well.
All right, man, Sarthak. So with this, we're moving to the next segment of the show.
Okay.
I'll be asking ChatGPT to throw up some would you rather questions.
Okay.
Right, and there'll be two choices, and it'll be interesting to see what you go with.
Sure.
Yeah. All right.
And are you gonna analyze something on at the end of it, or
maybe we'll leave it to the viewers and the listeners.
Sure. I hope people don't judge me on the basis of my answer.
That's exactly the point.
Anyway.
Yeah. All right. The first one is, would you rather have the ability to see 10 minutes into the future or 150 years into the future?
I would say 10 minutes into the future.
Yeah.
Because that is actually going to bring some direct impact.
Right. 150 is too much.
150 is too much.
Let's say 50.
No, 10 minutes is much better then, because I'll be able to make certain changes right away. Of course, whatever the space-time continuum is getting impacted, that's a different thing altogether.
Yeah,
but I won't get into that. I won't get into that. I would still go. Even if you go for 1 year, I'll still go for 10 minutes.
Okay. Next one. Would you rather have unlimited international first-class tickets or never have to pay for food at restaurants?
Interesting. Probably, unlimited international first class tickets, I would say, because I, love to travel. Haven't really traveled over the last 3-4 years, but would love to do that. Traveling is something which I would want to do, and having a first class tickets unlimited is something that I would go for.
Okay, this is a very cruel one. Okay. Would you rather always feel the urge to sneeze, but never actually do, or have hiccups for the rest of your life?
Man, I would not want anything to happen. I mean, I would not want anyone to face a certain situation like that.
Yeah.
This would be a neither, because who would want to do that? That's an uncomfortable situation throughout your life.
Yeah, it's too brutal.
Yeah.
Then the next one is pretty, it's nice. Would you rather be famous for your talent or be rich but unknown?
Rich but unknown,
really?
Definitely. Yeah. 100%. Famous for talent, I'm not rich, right? That's probably what I'm assuming out of this.
No, but you can leverage that to become rich, right?
I would still love to be unknown and famous, unknown and rich.
I know. I want to be able to walk on the street too. All right. Would you rather be completely invisible for one day or able to fly for one day?
One day, क्या ही करेंगे? Fly, what would be the range that I'll be getting out of that?
Let's say stratosphere.
Again, flying से कुछ result नहीं निकलेगा, but invisible, okay, there is a possibility I could actually leverage it to do something.
Yeah, you could get intelligence,
I would say invisible.
All right. Would you rather always have to sing instead of speaking or dance everywhere you go?
It depends on, everywhere I go. That will be very awkward in a lot of cases.
yeah.
Sing while I'm speaking.
You'd be a nice rapper, I feel.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Like probably yeah, sing while I speak.
Yeah. All right. Would you rather live in a world where there is no crime or no pollution?
No crime or no pollution.
Yeah. Choose on.
See, no crime. Definitely, I would go for a world with no pollution because no crime में तो फिर वो we have seen a lot of dystopian future.
Right.
Eventually, अगर नहीं भी होगा crime तो भी कुछ problem रहेगी थी. There has to be vices in the society.
Yeah.
I would go for a world without no pollution.
Yeah, at least like okay. Would you rather travel the world for free for a year or have 50,000 to spend however you please? Basically, like do you want like 1 year free vacation or
50,000
cash
rupees.
equivalent? Yeah. $50,000. Sorry.
$50,000,
Rupees, not
yeah.
rupees, yeah.
I know. I'll probably agar like if it is up to for me, I would spend more than $50,000 on travel. So I would go with travel.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a better. I would optimize more.
Right. I would choose that too. Yeah. Would you rather be the funniest person in the room or the most intelligent?
Most intelligent person, maybe.
Really?
Person, I mean, funniest. Both of them are like a really good options actually.
Yeah.
But I would rather be the most intelligent one. Actually, no. I would rather be the most funniest one.
Yeah.
Most intelligent होगा तो फिर मतलब ही नहीं निकलेगा ना.
Correct. Yeah.
Exactly. I would rather be the most funniest one. Yeah, exactly. I would
Anyway.
rather be the most funniest one.
Okay. Would you rather have an extra hour every day or an extra day every week?
Extra day every week, right? I get 24 hours more. Extra hour every day, एक week में को 7 घंटे मिलेंगे खाली.
Yeah.
So of course,
Yeah, right. Okay. Would you rather have skin that changes color based on your emotions or tattoos that appear all over your body depicting what you did yesterday?
this is again. I mean, I would not want either.
Okay, for the sake of the question,
For the
let's say
sake of
like,
the question-
yeah. If you don't choose either, you get both.
You get colorful tattoos.
Colorful tattoos.
Skin on the basis of color change on the basis of
Of your emotions. So, for example,
my
if you're like
emotions.
feeling a little low, you're completely blue. If you're angry, you're completely red.
I would say ठीक है, like
That's
color
alright,
change.
yeah.
Yeah, that's not that bad.
All right. The last one. Would you rather experience the beginning of planet Earth or the end of planet Earth? Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
In both the cases, I won't be alive. No.
I
Beginning.
mean, let's say you're in a temperature and climate pressure control.
I would go for the beginning. No?
bubble.
Beginning is a more positive thing to it. That I would love to observe.
Yeah.
End of planet Earth is also exciting to see कि क्या होगा end में, but then I would go for the beginning. I guess that will be much better.
Makes sense, man. From that beginning, we come to the end of this.
It has been a pleasure.
How do people reach out to you? I want
How
to
do people reach out to me? Guys, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Twitter, maybe I'm not exactly that active on Twitter, but LinkedIn is the way how you can reach out to me. You can definitely go to mitigata.com and you can directly get started, click on get started, and somebody from Mitigata's team will definitely reach out to you. So that is another way. Or send out an email at contact@mitigata.com. And yeah, I will be available. And anyway, LinkedIn page, you can just reach out to me. I generally respond to everybody, whoever reaches out to me on LinkedIn.
All right. Sarthak, absolute pleasure, man.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Angad.
Looking forward to the next episode.